Thank you for tuning in. Some will like this, some will hate it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. As you can see, we've got Loose Collector, both she and Muerta. Now, a lot of people giving this company praise, a lot of people giving them shit. Yeah, you can just about guess where I'm at. So, I actually bought she a year ago, and I've been meaning to get around to talk about her, and it's been hard because I heard people shouting praises on these figures, and I was like, why? Now, a very common problem with the ladies is there's a small bit, I feel really weird doing this on camera, there's a small bit right here that, well, basically supports the bottom end of the figure, and a lot of the times it'll pop out. I've seen it pop out on Muerta on videos, and I've seen it pop out on she on videos. That is, and with my she, it did the same thing. It popped out when I was messing around with her, and I didn't put any pressure hardly on her at all. It was that bad. I fixed it. It is a fixable thing. It's scary the first time you do it, but it's not something that's supposed to be done, from what I can tell. It's just not a well-made figure, and this is the problem. But before I get into all that, let me talk about these characters. First off, she, and I will say this, the box art is really nice. The presentation is there. She is a comic from way back, and I really enjoyed that series a great deal. I thought it was a lot of fun, and the artwork was really good, and it was interesting. Yeah, there was a little cheese case factor in there, but, you know, that wasn't the central part of the story. It was fun to get behind, and pun not intended. And it did fairly well. It didn't last. It was one of those series that was like really good for when it was, and then it just kind of tapered off and went away. There was a collected edition somewhere in the 2010s, and I think there was a new story with that, but honestly, nothing's been going on with she for a very, very long time. The figure's pretty good. Has extra hands, 2 swords, 2 sides, and a spear. Exactly what you would expect from a she action figure. I will give credit to the wrist articulation is really awesome. That's got a lot of range with that. In either case, with either figure, when you change the hands out, it's a little nerve-wracking because it feels like something's going to break. I have to be honest. Now, one of the really crappy things is that she has 2 head sculpts. They're exactly the same. One has her makeup and one does not. And they could have very easily put in a relaxed hair or something. But no, we can't do that. Why do something that makes sense? Okay. But she is an okay character if she had been in a Marvel Legends range. These figures are expensive. In some cases $75, in some cases $69. Laugh now. And putting them in that high of a price bracket, you expect a whole lot more. More accessories, better construction, better everything. Now, another one I've heard is with Muerta. I've heard about an arm issue where one of her arms pops off, and it's not that the peg pops off, the whole damn thing pops off. And I noticed with mine, her arm is loose, so I was very, very ginger with her. I don't know if I should intend a pun there or not. That's a good question. The Muerta is not as well known as she. Kind of sort of a supernatural Punisher type. She had an interesting run with Lady Death. That's mostly where I remember her from. And, you know, she comes with some guns, some extra hands, and stuff like that. Now, I'm sitting here looking at the accessory count, looking at the figures, and I mean, the figures are alright, but again, they are not worth that heavy, heavy price point. And the other thing is, it's a weird construction because you have to actually pop them off at the chest swivel to be able to remove the belts and put them back on. Very odd construction. It can be done, don't get me wrong. I think there should have been some kind of ab movement, but, you know, I can see an argument for not being there. At the same time, I think it's a big misstep. These being so pricey, and people have been defending these prices. I understand it's a small company. There is not a licensing issue here because nobody's doing anything with these two characters or any characters that have been done by a loose collector. None. Nothing. I mean, most of these characters are practically forgotten, and most people I've seen singing the praises of both these ladies don't even know who they are. Which surprises me, because I'm like, how do you want figures of characters you're not even sure who they are? I mean, I remember them. I specifically liked she a whole lot. I thought Muerta was at least a little bit interesting. A lot of them I did not find interesting. I will say it up front. Lady Death was one I did not gravitate towards in the slightest. I'm trying to think of some other loose collector. Purgatory, I was like, okay, seems kind of cliche, etc., etc., etc. There were a lot of cheesecake for cheesecake's sake kind of characters. That was my feeling on it. And yeah, I mean, some people enjoy that. I didn't. But that's beside the point. What is the point is, you look at all that, and then you look at the characters. I mean, there is not a lot going on with these characters. At all. So it's not like it's a heavy demand license that you could command a high price for. So that got me wondering, where is the price coming from? I did some research. I did find out that the guy who owns the company used to be a customizer. And as such, I'm wondering if maybe doing the custom prices, which would warrant $60, $70. You got to consider parts, you got to consider time, you got to consider this. But when you're doing a factory level figure, that should at least knock the price down. I think these should clock in max 40. I'm taking into account this is a small company doing a small run. Although, I notice these are not hard to find. So it makes me think maybe the run isn't as small as we think it is. But still, I mean, you got companies doing what I would assume is smaller runs coming in at a much better price point. So it boggles my mind what has occurred here, and why some people defend that price tag. I know there's this mentality of price is relative and you're not supposed to talk about it. That's bullshit. Value for your purchase. I have to say, after my issue with she and the almost issue with Muerta, I'm probably not buying anything else from Loose Collector because I'm a little nervous about it. I mean, I don't trust the quality. I really don't. On top of that, scale-wise, these are a little bit tall. I could possibly see it with she. I know that sounds weird because, you know, you automatically think an Asian is short, but she always was drawn very, very tall. And Muerta, I always thought was a little bit, I don't want to say short, but probably average height, and she seems a little tall for the figure. Again, that's a choice. I mean, some people choose whatever. And you have the right to those choices. I mean, hey, I see it. I understand it. I may not agree with it, but I understand it. Still, I really like these figures, but not at that price point. I bought these on a chance. I did not buy the Red Sonja, who was probably my favorite of all those characters. Main reason being is because Boss Fight Studios was doing theirs, which I honestly have to say looks 10 times better and is at a better value. So, I haven't got her yet, but I've got her purchased. And, you know, she'll arrive someday later. But, Yeah, I mean, the other thing that really bugs me is I know they did some artistic license with the hair and everything, but yeah, it gets in the way of certain poses. It's really weird, and I have a hard time dealing with that. You know, it's choice. But I also think if you're going to offer extra heads, you should have some that are a little more movable. I mean, we have the same problem with Marvel Legends. It seems like they never try to get the hair not getting stuck. And what also surprised me is I didn't see a lot of people talking about this. They were acting like the range of motion is really great. It's okay. You can work with it. But it is frustrating with that hair. Now again, I'm not saying I don't like them. I like both of these figures. I think they're pretty good. But they're overpriced. Massively overpriced. And, you know, I'm just going to say buyer beware because, you know, yeah. And again, there are that pelvis, I don't even know, pelvis piece coming out on 2 figures I know of. And I mean, I'm sure there's more. I haven't watched enough videos to know. When it happened, I thought it was mine. It freaked me out because I thought I had broke this, you know, $70 figure in She. And then I said, well, can it fit back? And it just fit right back. And then I found out, oh, it's the adhesive. You have to glue it back. So it's, and so far, Muerta has not broken. So far. Will she? It's a possibility. You know, and I can fix her. It's a fixable thing. But, you know, it's still something you need to take note of. When you get a figure this high price, you expect higher quality. And that's my issue. Is like, you know, this is probably Marvel Legends quality. I mean, and don't get me wrong, Marvel Legends has its good points, but it's a much cheaper quality than you would expect from a figure of that price type. And I don't understand the high price for these figures. That does not mean I don't like them. And I will say the paint apps are pretty good. I mean, I don't really see anything wrong on Muerta. I mean, that face paint is really good. And I'll say the same for She. I don't see anything really off. You know, the paint looks really good where it needs to be. And I mean, this is just like her outfit. And you know, that face paint is really good. Now, the other thing is with She, I noticed the joints came in tight. They've gotten very, very loose in the past year. And I have not handled her that much. So that's saying something as well. I don't know what it is. But something about the figures. You know, if you have some, okay. I don't think I can bring myself to buy any more. And maybe if you have some, you've already run into these problems too. I think some people have not mentioned these problems, honestly. And maybe they didn't notice them, maybe they got lucky. I don't know. But it makes me kind of go, huh. Because, you know, I bought the 2 characters I knew of, and I kind of liked. I did like Muerta. I thought her story was pretty decent. I liked She. I thought her story was pretty decent. And, you know, I just, you know, whenever they kind of disappeared, I was a little disappointed. It was like, and it was really strange because it was like they just quit showing up at the comic shop. Muerta was a bit more, because I really only saw her with Lady Death. I think there were some comics with her solo, but you know, I was really only with Lady Death. And I do admit I was introduced to both of them at the same time, and Muerta, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I can't tell you any details about that storyline, but I remember it. And that's kind of the point. It was memorable to me. It was something cool and nice. And with She, I really liked She. I thought that story was really interesting. Yeah, okay, she was drawn for cheesecake value, but there was something really good about that story. And I kind of enjoyed it, and I was kind of wanting to see how that turned out. And then one day she just quit showing up at the comic shop. I don't know why. I've got a few of her comics still. I did enjoy them for what they were, and you know, it was good action and cool swords and stuff like that. But yeah, she just kind of disappeared. Never really got a good idea what happened, and I did some research before doing this, and I still kind of don't know. It's just like it just stopped publishing. Weird. It wasn't because of sales. It was just stopped. It was a strange thing. And that's kind of what happened with all of those, like, I used to call them the hot chick comics, Witchblade, and I'm trying to think of some more. Witchblade was the big one. There was the woman had water powers. I can't remember her name. Those were Michael Turner's. Gen 13. Yeah, there was all kinds of these hot babe comics back in late 90s, early 2000s that got some notoriety because they were hot babes. So, I mean, that's what it was. I mean, it was cheesecake, pure and simple. But there were some good stories in some of those comics. I won't lie. I remember when they kind of took Laura Croft in there, and I was kind of like, oh boy. But, you know, they did put her in like a kind of slinky dress with her hips showing, but that was about as far as they took it. So, you know, they never put her in a thong that I remember. I might have, and I didn't get that issue. So don't at me on that one. And but yeah, I mean, there was some merit to some of those stories, and some of them were just, let's have an excuse to get a woman nearly naked. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just like, after you've done that so many times, it's kind of like, I'd like to have more story, please. Thank you. Yeah, believe it or not, I mean, I was so big into comics, so I did notice a lot of people who really kind of gravitated towards that. They were not heavy readers, and they probably just looked at the comics. Yeah. And that's fine too. I mean, it works for increased sales, but it also didn't seem to last. It seemed to fizzle out really heavy, and just a lot of people quit buying it. I think. I don't know. I know part of it was the untimely death of Michael Turner. That didn't help. But there was a, you know, it just seemed like there was a sputter out point with that kind of comic book. And I'm not sure why. And I never really investigated why. But it just kind of died, and then, you know, a lot of the creators are just kind of like, I don't know where they're at. They're out floating around. It's kind of interesting to see now. They didn't get other jobs. They didn't go further in the comic industry, a lot of them. So it's like, I don't remember. I looked up Brian Ducci, and I didn't find any credits of his after she. And yeah. Anyway, so again, these are overpriced. I'm just gonna say it because they are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are overpriced. And are they nice figures? Yeah. Are they cool figures? Yeah. But they're overpriced. They're about twice what they should be. And, you know, I don't dig that. There it is. My thoughts on Loose Collector, she and Muerta. Again, I'm going to avoid buying any more figures from that company. Not that I hate these, but that is too much money on too little value. My thoughts. End of discussion. Alright. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to YouTube stuffs, and you guys take care.